Hello everyone. I'm going to talk about something today that kind of piggybacks off of my productivity video, and that is, it's going to sound a little weird, but it's called doing nothing. So I'm going to explain what I mean by that because it can easily be taken out of context. So let's talk a little bit about recovery, okay? Obviously we all have different fears. Some have the same fears, some are different, and so on and so forth. So our recovery journeys will be similar in ways and then different in ways. Some of us, as I always talk about, will need to move towards more uncertainty, some towards more direct exposure, say contamination OCD and harm OCD if you remove knives from your house and so forth. And then our journeys basically have stages. So if you've listened to this channel before, Rob talks about stages of awareness, and that is an important part of the journey, not forcing acceptance, which we all do in the beginning. We all try and force acceptance, rightfully so. When you're suffering really bad, you don't want to suffer anymore, so you try and force down these the acceptance, and then that can become compulsive and so forth. But that's, not what this is about. So doing nothing and productivity, how do those go together? So you say to me, well, Nick, you're saying don't do anything. What do you mean by that? You just made a video about productivity. Exactly. So sometimes during the OCD journey, the best thing to do is nothing and just live. Now, whether you're working with a therapist or a coach or so forth, or you believe that's where you are in your journey, this is very important. So I always like to use myself as an example. I think it's super important. So at about month 4, we decided to have me do nothing. No more reading. At the time being, no more disputing and just living. So with somatic OCD, there's not particularly too much direct exposures. Your exposure is just experiencing the sensation. That's it. It's just experiencing the sensation. And over time, your brain starts to realize that it's not as scary as you made it out to be, because everyone salivates, everyone breathes, everyone does all this, but you just attach this fear to it, and then you got really scared, and that's what got you in that fear cycle instead of just letting it go and saying, it's not that big of a deal. We all feel these sensations. So there came a point in my recovery where I had to do nothing. Now, let me tell you what happened to me when I did that. I got really scared, and my wife can attest to this. I remember this was about 6 weeks ago. We were meeting with our CPA, and I was bugging out. Oh my God, what am I going to do? I mean, I got to watch the videos. I gotta watch videos. Are they becoming compulsive and so on and so forth? I was at a point where I knew what I needed to do, so I needed to become productive in other areas of my life. So I started focusing more on the business because we had just quit our other jobs as employees. I started focusing more on exercise. I started focusing more on hiking. I started focusing more on reading, and not just reading stuff with OCD or recovery. I started reading other things, stuff with pain management, stuff that pertains to my field of knowledge, exercise physiology, books on habits, books on experiences. I want to get into autobiographies. I haven't really done that yet. It's something I think is interesting. I've never actually read the autobiography one time in my life. But anyway, that is what we mean by doing nothing. So, and I understand that it can be confusing, especially when you're really, really suffering. You say to yourself, like I said, what do you mean by doing nothing? Does that mean sitting on the couch all day and stuff like that? And that's not what that means. It means engaging in other areas of your life. If you watch Oliver's a couple of videos ago, Bring Emotions for the Ride, he talks about not waiting for a certain feeling. And not to get a little off topic, but that is very important. I have talked to a lot of people, especially people who are a little farther in their recovery journey, farther than me, and they say, well, I'm going to wait until I am recovered to do this. I think that that's a bad idea. I think that there is a time and place to cut things out completely, say caffeine in the beginning if your anxiety is 10 out of 10. It makes rational and logical sense, but you don't want to avoid certain things forever. I think that's what makes people more prone to relapses or prone to coming out of recovery and so on and so forth. There is no magical feeling. You just get to a certain stage in your recovery and you figure out what's best for your recovery, and it's experiment. You try some things, they might not work, and you go back and you regroup. That's how you progress in a systematic and rational way. But doing nothing comes across as if sitting on the couch all day. I just was talking about this with a buddy earlier today when we were talking about how I should explain it in this video. And we were talking about, through his words, some people might believe that doing nothing means, well, I'm sitting on the couch all day, I'm ruminating, I'm scared. And this is why integrating a healthy life structure. So before I was now, when I was a little bit more, I would say, obsessive about my structure, I would say, I got up around the same time every day, which I still do. I made sure I worked out 3 to 5 days a week, resistance training 3 to 4, hiking once. I made sure I was walking my dogs, um, spending time with my wife, because my wife will tell you when she does a video on her own, which she's going to, sometimes I can become very all or nothing when it comes to work or anything in my life, and that's not a good trait you want to have. It's a black and white trait. It's very common in society, and it doesn't really lead to good mental health. But you want to slowly start implementing regular things back into your life and then do nothing about the way you feel. The biggest problem with anxiety, especially people who are mental health counselors, again, every video I have to say this, I'm a doctor of chiropractic. I am not a mental health specialist. I have to put that out there for a disclaimer because I am licensed. So, but you see these techniques being used, and I've talked to people who are not OCD, and they actually do something. They don't do nothing. And what do I mean by that? They grounding techniques, deep breathing techniques, distraction techniques. And what is going on is you're still responding and still engaging. Now, when you're disputing, you're not as much engaging as you think you are, because I thought the same thing. It's more along the lines of saying to yourself, well, this isn't as bad as I thought it was. You're not agreeing with it. We've talked about that in previous videos, but you're actually saying to yourself, well, wait a second, this doesn't really make any sense. There's no evidence to prove that. But there comes a time and place where that might not even be necessary at this point in your journey. This is why the journey has so many different stages. This is why we talk a lot about on this channel, thoughts are just thoughts, doesn't cut it, especially not in the beginning for most cases. Thoughts are just thoughts may cut it for maybe 1 out of 10 OCD, or much farther along in your OCD recovery journey. But there's a good chunk in the beginning, 3, 6, 9, 12 months, where thoughts are just thoughts, just don't cut it. And we've seen this anecdotally, which means experience, in the OCD community. Why have people not been recovering years prior? Because they are deeply afraid of something. So showing your brain, doing nothing about your OCD, and going about your day, being as healthy with lifestyle habits and so forth, can really make a huge difference in that one particular quandra of your recovery process. And that's where I am right now. I don't, everyone's different. And everyone will have different fears and different experiences. For me right now, that's what I'm doing. No reading on OCD. I don't really watch any of Rob's videos too much right now. I'm just living. And it was very hard for the first 3 weeks. I went super, woo! It was like I was on the high, and then I jumped off a cliff. And I said to myself, what's going on? It's because those things were no longer becoming a tool. They were becoming compulsive. And the only way to know that is if you stop doing it at that period of time for myself. Again, we're just speaking about my particular situation, but we have seen this quite often when it comes to other people and how they go about doing nothing. Because like I said, so let's get a little summary going on here. I like to do a summary, as you all know. So what do we mean by doing nothing? There might come a point, more than likely, in your recovery process where it's time to live life. Maybe you're 3 to 5 months in, 6 months in, you've learned everything you think you can learn right now, and it's time you've applied them, and now you're just going to live. You're going to get back to exercising. You're going to get back to socializing with your friends. You're going to get back to maybe having a cup of coffee a couple times a week if you're at that stage, and so on and so forth. And you're going to just live your life. And that anxiety, as we say in OCD recovery, from Rob, you bring your anxiety along for the ride. Bring OCD along for the ride, because there is no special moment. That's why doing nothing in this sense actually means you're being productive in other areas of your life that matter to you. Whether you like to paint, whether you like to ski or snowboard or rollerblade or run with your dogs or jump on a trampoline or anything like that, fashion, shopping, driving in cars, anything. But that is what you're going towards, and you're living your life on your own terms. Even when your anxiety is 10 out of 10, you are doing something. I like to give examples because it goes to show how much you can do. I was hiking, okay, 10,000 feet plus in the middle of winter, last winter, with complete depersonalization. Now, I was doing nothing, but I was doing something. I was hiking, I was getting back into lifestyle habits, and it took a long time for my brain to say, well, wait a second. He's not running from this anymore. We don't have to bring it up nearly as much anymore. He's obviously not scared of this. And that's how you go about going through the recovery process. And this has worked wonders for me at this stage of my journey. It's helped with my anxiety, it's helped with my obsessions, and it's been a great learning tool, almost realizing that I am capable of doing so many other things when I'm at a point in my recovery where I'm not hyper focused on just sitting on the couch and ruminating all day. But again, you don't want to avoid, you don't want to become too productive, as I said in the last video, where it becomes compulsive. And it's, listen, in the beginning, things become compulsive because we have OCD. It's what the disorder is. It is obsessive compulsive disorder. And you're rightfully and naturally going to be a little bit more compulsive than other people because you have a disorder, and that is okay. It doesn't mean it's going to be like that forever. The way you feel right now does not dictate the way you're going to feel for the rest of your life. The habits you have right now does not mean that's going to be the habits you have for the rest of your life. It's just hard to get to that point because you have to persist, which I did a video on persistence and the importance of persistence in recovery, which is arguably one of, if not the most important thing in OCD recovery, is the persistence, whether it takes you 3 years, 4 years, and so forth. But that's what I mean by doing nothing. I really had to clarify what I meant by that because it's very easy to say, well, I'm sitting on the couch and doing nothing. Well, no, that's not what we mean. Remember, we mean being productive, going about things in a way that's rational, not sitting on the couch all day trying to dispute your own thoughts, which I did, made a mistake about 10 times and became really compulsive. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. More videos to come as always. If you have any questions, anything you want to talk about, message me down below. I always answer. And have a great day, guys. Thank you.